Polish President Lech Kaczynski said to arrive in Russia Monday and visit Katyn in the west of the country. During his first ever official visit to Russia, the Polish leader intends to pay tribute to the memory of his fellow countrymen who were killed by the Soviet security services more than 60 years ago. In 1940, thousands of Polish officers taken prisoner during the Soviet invasion of Poland were executed in the Katyn forest by the NKVD, the forerunner of the KGB. Our correspondent Alexandra Kashanicka brings us the details on one of the darkest sides of Russian-Polish relations.
Katyn, one of the great tragedies of the 20th century. In 1940, a mass execution of Polish officers was ordered by Joseph Stalin. Between 15 and 20,000 people were killed. Grzegorz Hoffman lost his father and his uncle. They both were captured by NKVD forces when they entered eastern Poland and then sent to concentration camps.
We got to know about my father from the postcards he sent us from Starobelsk, where they kept him. He was a teacher. The last one was sent in April 1940. We never saw him again. The same with my uncle Tadeusz. He was a lawyer. His letters came from Kozelsk. His life ended in the burial pits of Katyn.
In 1990, Mikhail Gorbachev, the first president of the USSR, acknowledged the events. Confidential files were handed over to Poland. In 1993, Boris Yeltsin, the president of the Russian Federation, apologized and publicly repented before the monument of Katyn's victim in Warsaw. This memorial was built by order of the Russian government.
Poles come here often with ministers and even organs. They hold memorial services here. The monument is made of cast iron. It will last forever. And the rust symbolizes clotted blood.
The graves of Katyn bear the remains of 4,421 Polish officers. The site wasn't chosen by accident.
This forest was already an immense burial site for Soviet citizens executed during Stalin's repressions. There are up to 9,000 Soviet people buried on the territory of this memorial. Unlike with Polish officers, the NKVD destroyed all personal files and personal belongings. Therefore, we might never know their names.
This path is set above the ground to keep it away from the mass graves that are scattered all around here. In order to hide the graves, those who carried out the executions planted pine trees. And so, this forest makes an integral part of the memorial and bears witness to the tragic events. More than 60 years have passed, but this forest still casts its dark shadow over Russian-Polish relations.
If they want to stick to the truth, then they should do it too. Tens of thousands of Soviet citizens, soldiers, were killed in Polish concentration camps after the Soviet-Polish War. They died of illnesses or starvation. Our Polish colleagues still refuse to form a commission and let us investigate the causes of the deaths.
Between 16 and 20,000 Soviet prisoners of war died in Polish concentration camps in the early 1920s. Both Katyn and the fate of the Soviet prisoners have often been the stumbling blocks in the relations between the countries.
We should remember this tragedy. It was acknowledged by Russia, politically and morally condemned. It is now a part of the historical legacy. This shouldn't become a reason for inflating distrust between nations.
The story of Katyn is painfully remembered in Russia. For Poland, it might be the story of Jedwabne. On the 10th of June in 1941, the Jewish community of 1,600 people were murdered by their Polish neighbors. The massacre of Jedwabne had been preceded by similar atrocities in the surrounding regions. No Nazis were involved. Although a thorough investigation proved it, these events still cause much debate in Poland. Citizens of Jedwabne still refuse to talk about their dark history.
To remember only what can be turned to its advantage is harmful for the young generation. It only causes mutual exasperation.
Somebody once said, the facts disappear in time, legends remain forever. It is up to people how this is written down in the history books. Alexandra Kashornitskaya, Russia Today, Moscow.